All right, this is going to be a recording on the Unit 1 study guide for multiplying and dividing rational numbers. So if you're having a little trouble on the unit test or just on the study guide, I'm going to go through each question for you and hopefully it'll make more sense. So let's go ahead and get started. Here's number 1. It says a scuba diver descends from the surface at a rate of 40 feet per minute. What is the position of the scuba diver relative to the surface? Let me put that on mute. After diving for 4 minutes. So let's look at our important information here. The diver is descending, so that means he's going down, right? Which would be a negative number. Because if you start at the surface, you're starting at 0. Anything above the surface would be positive. Anything below the surface would be negative. Okay, so we're descending. That means we're going to be working with some negative numbers. So if he starts from the surface, he descends from the surface at a rate of 40 feet per minute. So every minute, he's going down 40 feet. Okay. What is the position of the scuba diver relative to the surface after diving for 4 minutes? So if he's going negative 40 feet every minute, we're going to do negative 40 feet times 4 because we're looking at 4 minutes. Okay? So negative 40 times 4 is going to be negative 160. So number 1 is pretty quick here. There's your answer, negative 160 feet. All right, moving on to number 2. It is just telling us to multiply negative 1.3 times 0.5. Well, right off the bat, we have a negative times a positive, which is going to give us a negative. So we can eliminate these two options, and we know it's one of those. So let's multiply. We've got 1.3, and you can ignore your signs once you know what your answer will be. And we know it's a negative, so I'm just not going to write the signs. Times 0.5. That is going to give you 0.65. Okay, and we know it's negative, so I'll keep that there, and you can add a 0 right here if you'd like. Okay, and our answer is negative 0.65. And if you're wondering how I got that, I would do 5. Let me put the multiplication sign there. 5 times 3 would give you 15. Carry the 1, the 5's down there. 5 times 1 is 5, plus the 1 that we carried is 6. Put our decimal point, and 0 times 3 and 0 times 1 is just 0. So that's how we got that answer. All right, going on to number 3. Number 3 says, Mr. Wallace sees a red light ahead and applies the brakes on his car. The car is traveling 415.5 feet, or the car travels 415.5 feet before coming to a stop. For each foot the car travels during this time, its speed changes by negative 0.3 miles per hour. So it slows down because it's negative 0.3 miles per hour for every foot. Okay? What is the total change in the car's speed during that time? So we have 415.5 feet. So we'll put that up here. And we want to multiply that times this miles per hour that it gives us. Okay? And again, I'm going to ignore the signs because I have a negative times a positive, which I know is a negative. So we're going to mark those two out because they're not negative. All right, line your decimals up, 0.3, and then you just multiply. So 3 times 5 is 15. 3 times 5 again is 15, plus that 1 is 16. 3 times 1 is 3, plus that is 4. 3 times 4 is 12. Okay, and you might be saying, where do I put my decimal point? Well, however many numbers are behind these two decimals is how many you move in your answer. So the top number has 1 digit behind the decimal, the bottom number has 1 digit. 1 plus 1 is 2. So if we start here and move over 2 spots, 1, 2, our decimal would go right there. And we know that our answer has to be negative. So there is your answer, negative 124.65. All right, moving on. The next question is just a multiplication problem with fractions here. So we have negative 1 over 6 times 6 over 7. And again, we have a negative times a positive, which we know is a negative. So we can go ahead and cross out these positive answers. We know that can't be the right answer. All right, so we have, when you're multiplying fractions, you just go straight across. So straight across the top, straight across the bottom. 1 times 6 is 6 on the top. And we'll go ahead and put our negative sign. And 6 times 7 on the bottom is 42. Now look at your answers there. None of them say 6 over 42. We've got to simplify this fraction, okay? So I like to, when I'm simplifying fractions, start with the numerator and see if both the numerator and the denominator can be divided evenly by the numerator. So 6 can definitely be divided by 6, and so can 42. So we're going to divide the top by 6, which gives us 1 as our numerator, and 42 divided by 6 gives us 21. Nope. Why am I writing that? I'm sorry. 42 divided by 6 is 7, because 7 times 6 equals 42. Where did I get 21 from? I don't know. Okay, and we'll keep our negative sign here, so your answer is negative 1 over 7. Okay. All right, next problem. It says, what is the product of negative 2 2/3 and 2 1/5? So we've got some mixed numbers here. First thing you want to do is change these mixed numbers into improper fractions so that we can multiply them. Okay, and to do that, you take the denominator times the whole number. So 3 times 2 for this one is going to give you 6. And then you add the numerator to that product. So 3 times 2 is 6, plus 2 more is 8. That's going to be our numerator. And you keep the denominator the same from the original fraction. And that's negative. And then we're multiplying because it says product. And then we've got to change this mixed number to an improper fraction as well. So 5 times 2 is 10, plus 1 is 11. Keep the same denominator, so over 5. And now you just multiply. Okay, we've got a negative times a positive. We know the answer's negative, so we can cross that one out. And then just multiply across the top and the bottom. 8 times 11 is 88 on the top. And the denominators, 3 times 5 is 15. Now, you don't see 88 over, or negative 88 over 15 in these answers. That means we need to simplify, and we may need to divide so that we can get a mixed number. Okay, we know the answer is not negative 1/2 because 15 is not half of 88. So we can mark that one out. So we know here these answers are both mixed numbers. So to get an improper fraction to a mixed number, you have to divide. Okay, so we're going to divide 88 divided by 15. All right, we know our answer is negative, so I'll go ahead and put that up there. 15 can go into 88 how many times? So I'm thinking I know 15 times 5 is 75. And if you do 15 times 6, that would go over 88. So we'll do 5. 15 times 5 is 75. Subtract those. So 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. 8 minus 7 is 1. So we've got 13 left over. Well, 15 can't go into 13, so we're going to use that as our remainder. So our mixed number is going to be our answer up here at the top is the whole number, so -5. The remainder is the numerator, so 13 up top, and you keep the original denominator from your improper fraction, so 15. So our answer here is -5 and 13/15. Okay, right there. All right, let's scroll on over. This one says to divide -28 by 8. So we're going to do that right here. If you have a calculator, you could, of course, type it in there. But we're going to do it this way, assuming that we don't have one. All right, 8 cannot go into 2, but 8 can go into 28. Okay, we know that 8 times 3 gives us 24. So let's subtract those. 8 minus 4 is 4. 8 cannot go into 4. Okay, but we know that 4 is half of 8, so we could put 0.5 right here. But look at your answers over here. And we know this is negative, right? Because we have a negative divided by a positive. So we can mark this out. We can mark this out because they're positive. We know it has to be negative. So these are in mixed number form. But if you look, 0.5 is the same as half. Okay, because 5 is half of 10. So really, this is the same thing. -3.5 is the same thing as -3 and 1/2. Okay, so this would be the correct answer. All right, moving on. This one is going to require a little bit more work, but we're going to get through it here. This one says, Timothy recorded the monthly change in his savings account balance in dollars for 8 months. So those are all the changes down there. When it's negative, that means he spent money. When it's positive, that means he put money in. What is the average monthly change in Timothy's savings account balance? So anytime I'm doing this, what they want you to do is add and subtract all of these numbers. But what I like to do first is combine all the negatives. So this is negative, 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 and negative. So we've got -35 plus -45 plus -10 plus -25. Okay, so we know the answer is negative because you're just adding up a bunch of negatives. And the answer to that is, let me see real quick, 5 and 5, 15. That would be -115 for the negatives. And then now let's do the deposits, the positives. So we have 50 plus 70 plus 30 plus 15. Okay, so 50 plus 70 plus 30 plus 15 is 165. And then you're going to take both of these values. So 165 minus 115, because it's negative, gives us 50. Yes, 50. And then you don't stop there because we found the difference here, but we need to divide it by how many months there are. That's how you find an average. So 1 month, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, they told us up there, 8 months. So 50 divided by 8 is how you're going to get your answer. And that is going to give you 6.25. And if you look up at the top, that would be B. 6.25. All right, let's go ahead and go to the next one. You're dividing fractions here. So remember that when we have fractions and it asks us to divide, to make it easier on ourselves, we use the keep, change, flip rule. And so this is how we do that. We keep the first fraction the same. So keep -1/2 the same. Nothing changes about that. So keep, change the sign. It was division, and now it's multiplication. And flip the last fraction. So it was 1/6. We're going to flip it. Now it's 6/1. Okay? And this is much easier than doing that. So we're going to multiply. We have a negative times a positive. We know our answer is negative. 1 times 6 is 6 on the top. And 2 times 1 is 2 on the bottom. Now look at your answers over here. I do not see -6/2, so we need to simplify. We're trying to think of a number that can be divided into both the numerator and the denominator evenly. I see that both numbers are even numbers, so I'm going to divide by 2. And that's going to give you 6 divided by 2 is 3 over 2 divided by 2, which is 1. And anytime you see over 1 for a fraction, it's just the same as just the numerator. So 3/1 is the same thing as just 3. And you can't forget your negative sign. Okay? So the correct answer is -3. All right, we've got 2 more here. Here's the next question. It says, during a 3-month-long drought, the water level in a lake changed by -4.5 feet. The water level changed at the same rate each month. What is amount the water? That question's silly. What is the amount the water changed during just 1 month? Y'all, sorry, I cannot read today. So we have, I'm just going to give you a visual here. We've got 3 months. Okay, so here's 1 month, 2 months, and 3 months. And the total that it changed over the whole time is -4.5 feet. Okay, over all 3. So not each of these is -4.5. The whole thing equals that. So we need to divide this by 3 to see what each of these little segments is equal to. Okay, so before we do that, we're going to change this mixed number to an improper fraction. Okay, remember to do that. We multiply. We have 2 times 4, which is 8, plus 1 more. Let me see. Oh, sorry, I was looking at the wrong thing. Okay. Let's do that again. 2 times 4 is 8, plus 1 more is 9, and it's negative. And then you keep the denominator the same, which is 2. Okay, so -4.5 is the same thing as -9/2. And remember, we want to divide this, so let's write that over here. By 3, because it changes, because it's 3 months. Okay. Now, remember on our last problem I said any fraction over 1 is just the same as the numerator. So we can use that same logic here to make it easier on ourselves, so that we don't have a whole number and a fraction. We can change this whole number to a fraction by just putting it over 1. Okay, so -9/2 divided by 3/1. We don't want to divide fractions, so we're going to use the keep, change, flip rule so that we can multiply. So we're going to keep 9/2, -9/2, change to multiplication, and flip 3/1, and it becomes 1/3. And now we just multiply. We know our answer is negative because we have a negative times a positive. So let's go ahead and do that first so we don't forget. And then we have 9 times 1 on the top, that's 9. And we have 2 times 3, which is 6 on the bottom. So we have -9/6. Take a look over here. I don't see that over there, but I do see a lot of mixed numbers. And I know I can change an improper fraction to a mixed number by dividing, right? So we're going to divide 9 into 6. 9 divided by 6. 6 can go into 9 one time, and it's negative, remember, from over here. And if you subtract, you have 3 left. Whoa! I don't know what happened there. So our whole number is the answer, the top number. Okay, that is not being nice to me. We have 3 left over, so I'm just going to write it right here. That's our remainder. So our whole number is -1, and our fraction is 3. We got that because that was the remainder. And then we keep the same bottom number, which is 6. Now, we know that 3/6 can be simplified to 1/2. Okay, so I'm just going to draw it right here. -1 stays the same, and we simplify our fraction to 1/2. So that one involved a little bit more work than the other. So our answer is -1 and 1/2. All right, last one. We have a mixed number divided by a proper fraction. So before we do anything, we're going to change this mixed number into an improper fraction. We know it's negative, so let's go ahead and write our negative sign. 3 times 5 is 15, plus 2 more is 17 on the top. Keep the bottom number. There's our improper fraction, and just copy down the rest of the problem. So divided by 1/3. All right, remember, we don't want to divide decimals, so we're going to use keep, change, flip to make it a multiplication problem. So that would be keeping -17/3. That stays the same. Change to multiplication and flip to 3/1. Now we can just multiply. Let's do our sign first. We have a negative times a positive is a negative. 17 times 3, I'll have to type that one in. 17 times 3 is 51 on the top. And 3 times 1 is 3 on the bottom. All right. And I'm looking over here, and I see mixed numbers. And I know my answer is not 51 right here. So let's try to type this into our calculator and see if it divides evenly. Let's do -51 divided by 3. And that gives us an even -17. Okay, if you typed it in and it did not give you an even whole number, you would need to convert it back into a mixed number to see what you got. All right, that is it. If you need help with anything else, feel free to shoot me an email.